The Alethus Academy of Galactic Sciences was more than just a school. It was a temple of intellect, a place where only the brightest minds from thousands of worlds gathered to push the boundaries of knowledge itself. It stood at the heart of the Jarn Dominion, a civilization so advanced that their toddlers could solve equations that would leave lesser species drooling on their notepads. Here, gravity was a suggestion rather than a rule. Nanites handled tedious tasks before students even realized they needed doing. And even the cafeteria food was crafted to enhance neural plasticity. Which is why the presence of a human among them was downright absurd. Caden Holt was the anomaly that no one understood. He wasn't brilliant, he wasn't fast, and his biochemistry was laughably inefficient compared to the genetically optimized species around him. Even the Ventari molluscoids, a species that literally oozed their way through lectures at a quarter speed, could process information faster than he could. And so, he became the Academy's most hilarious spectacle. Cyrilla Shen was especially vocal about it. Tall, elegant, and boasting the Jarn's signature bioluminescent neural lattice, she carried herself like someone who knew she was superior. Because, well, she was, at least compared to him. And today, in the Advanced Quantum Mechanics Lab, she was about to prove it again. Caden was hunched over a set of trans-dimensional equation stabilizers, trying very hard to look like he knew what he was doing. Which, to be fair, he didn't. He understood numbers. He even liked numbers. But these numbers were angry. They had too many dimensions, too many shifting variables that refused to sit still. Every time he thought he had them pinned, they laughed and rearranged themselves into some eldritch nightmare of mathematics. Cyrilla, sitting across from him, smirked. "Let me guess. You're struggling with the Zephyrian inversion theorem." Caden squinted at the holographic equations in front of him. "I mean, I'm struggling with everything. But sure, let's pretend that's the problem." The Jarn students around them chuckled. Even Professor Gyrex, a six-eyed reptilian scholar who had witnessed centuries of academic brilliance, sighed heavily, rubbing his temple with one of his many clawed fingers. Cyrilla leaned forward, eyes glittering with that special kind of condescension only a Jarn could master. "You know, it's kind of adorable how hard you try." "Really, it is." Caden arched a brow. "Wow, that almost sounded supportive." "Oh, it is. I support your ongoing efforts to be slightly less pathetic." The laughter around them grew louder. Even the molluscoid at the next table wobbled slightly in amusement, which was impressive, considering their species had an emotional range roughly equivalent to a damp sponge. Caden sighed. "Right. Great. Listen, can we at least pretend I have dignity?" Cyrilla grinned. "I could. But that would be a lie, and my species has a strict ethics code about distorting reality for the sake of your fragile emotions." Caden crossed his arms. "You literally just bent reality itself, 5 minutes ago, to correct a math error." "Exactly," she said smugly. "You see the difference?" Caden pinched the bridge of his nose. "Remind me again why I left Earth for this?" The laughter continued, but amid the humor, there was an undeniable truth. Caden Holt didn't belong here. Not physically, not intellectually. The Jarn lived for 10,000 years, their intelligence carefully sculpted over generations of genetic refinement. The Athelians, another top species in the Academy, processed time simultaneously in multiple temporal dimensions, allowing them to solve equations in past, present, and future at the same time. And then there was him, a guy from a backwater planet that had only recently figured out how to not blow itself up every few centuries. He was slower, weaker, dumber, and everyone knew it. The lab session continued, with Professor Gyrix eventually giving up on Caden entirely, moving on to students who could actually process equations without looking like their souls were leaking out of their ears. Caden, meanwhile, resigned himself to staring at the math like it had personally wronged him. Cyrilla watched him struggle for a while before sighing dramatically. "All right, I can't watch this anymore. Move over." Caden frowned as she hacked into his equations, her fingers gliding over the holographic interface with effortless precision. Numbers rearranged themselves in elegant spirals, forming patterns that Caden was pretty sure were illegal in some parts of the universe. "There," she said smugly. "Fixed it for you." Caden blinked. "You just did the entire assignment for me, didn't you?" "Of course. Watching you struggle was too painful, and I refuse to be emotionally burdened by your inadequacy. I'm pretty sure this is academic fraud. I'm pretty sure no one expects you to pass this class anyway." Caden rubbed his temples. "This is why I drink." "Oh, please. You don't even drink real alcohol. You drink that terrible earth stuff that burns your organs and doesn't even contain hyperneurogenic compounds." "Yeah, because my species isn't genetically engineered to handle liquid mind melters." Cyrilla smirked. Sad. Caden exhaled slowly. "I hope you step on a Lego." "I don't know what that is, but I assume it's pathetic." "Oh, it is. But it's also the most painful experience in the universe." Before Cyrilla could fire back with another insult, the overhead chime signaled the end of the lab session, and students began filing out. Cyrilla stretched, her neural lattice glowing faintly. "All right, Primitive. I'm off to do something actually productive with my day." Caden rolled his eyes. "I'll be here, contemplating my life choices." As she walked away, Cyrilla called back over her shoulder, "Good luck not failing out of existence, Holt." The laughter followed her out of the room. Caden sighed, turning back to his screen. The numbers still didn't make sense. The equations still made his brain hurt. But as he sat there, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching him. A creeping sensation at the back of his mind. Something old. Something forgotten. And then, just for a moment, his terminal glitched. A line of strange, forbidden text flickered onto the screen. A warning. "Do not let them remember." Caden blinked. And then it was gone. The thing about restricted files in the Alethis Academy was that they weren't supposed to exist in the first place. The Academy was an institution of knowledge, a place where information was freely shared across civilizations, unrestricted by political agendas or ancient grudges. It prided itself on its transparency, its vast archives open to all students, except, apparently, when it came to one very specific topic. Cyrilla Shen should have walked away the moment she saw the access denied warning. Instead, she did the exact opposite. She dug deeper. Cyrilla wasn't just some student. She was a Sharn, and not just any Sharn. Her family was noble, their genetic lineage honed across millennia to produce intellectual elites. She had access to high-clearance databases. There was no locked door she couldn't open, no encrypted archive she couldn't bend to her will. So when the system refused her entry, it wasn't just frustrating. It was insulting. She tapped her fingers against the terminal, watching the red error message flash on the screen again. "Access denied. Classified by order of the Universal Historical Council." Right. That was definitely suspicious. She leaned back in her chair, muttering to herself. "Okay, so, what exactly are they hiding?" The room was dimly lit, the glow from her hollow interface casting faint blue light across her face. It was late. Most students had long since left the research labs. She had stayed behind, pretending to study, while in reality, she was trying to break into one of the most secure data vaults in the galaxy. all because of one primitive human. Caden Holt had bothered her from the moment she met him. At first, he was just a joke, a ridiculous creature who somehow wormed his way into the academy despite his absurd biological disadvantages. His species was weak, his brain ludicrously slow, his entire existence a galactic mistake. But then, there was something off. He wasn't like other weak species. He should have flinched when she insulted him. He should have been afraid. Instead, he just rolled his eyes, as if her words meant nothing. That alone was weird. But then there was the glitch. That moment in the lab when his terminal had flickered, displaying something it shouldn't have. A warning. A threat. Something about remembering. And now she was sitting here, digging into the past, chasing whispers of a forgotten truth. With a flick of her fingers, she bypassed the standard security layers, slipping past the Academy's data firewalls. This wasn't technically legal, but she wasn't technically the type to care. Her neural lattice glowed brighter as she activated a hidden data tracing algorithm, something her family had used for political espionage in the past. It was fast, efficient, and, most importantly, undetectable. The screen flickered. Something shifted. The error message vanished. In its place, a new file appeared, a record so old that its format hadn't been used for thousands of years. The interface struggled to decode it, converting it into something readable. And then, finally, she saw it. A single entry. A forgotten name. Earth, Sector 0. Formerly designated as Class X Catastrophic Species. Status: obscured from galactic memory by order of the Council. Cyrilla froze. She had expected something unusual, a minor conspiracy, a footnote in galactic history. But this? A species so dangerous that the entire universe had agreed to erase them? Her first reaction was disbelief. There was no way that could be true. Humanity was, what? Barely capable of interstellar travel? They had only recently been allowed back into the cosmic community. The idea that they were once a Class X catastrophic species was laughable. She read further. The file detailed a war that should not have happened. Millennia ago, when humanity had first reached the stars, they were considered unremarkable. Their biology was unspecialized, their intellect modest compared to the great civilizations of the time. And yet, somehow, they had fought against the most powerful species in the galaxy, and won. Cyrilla's mouth went dry as she scrolled through the reports. Humanity hadn't just fought with technology, they had fought with something else. Adaptation, madness, an utter disregard for logical limitations. Where other species retreated, humans dug in and refused to surrender. Where others negotiated peace, humans exploited weakness. Where others valued survival, humans valued victory at any cost. And the worst part? They got stronger when they were losing. Cyrilla skimmed through the war records, her stomach twisting. There were classified accounts of human pilots surviving impossible odds, using sheer stubbornness and creativity to win battles they should have lost. There were ships held together with duct tape and madness, fighting against fleets that should have obliterated them instantly. And then there was the incident. Cyrilla's fingers hesitated over the final file. This was the event that had changed everything. The reason humanity had been erased. She tapped the entry. The screen glitched again. For a second, she thought she had triggered an alarm, but no, the data was loading, slowly, as if reluctant to be revealed. Then, at last, the entry opened, and what she saw made her blood run cold. A video feed, blurry at first, then sharpening. A human, no, not just one. A group of them, torn, battered, but alive. Their surroundings were in ruins. The aftermath of a battle so horrific that the landscape had been reduced to ash and glass. And then, a message transmitted across the stars, a warning, a promise. Cyrilla's eyes widened as she read it. We don't stop. We don't surrender. We don't break. Erase our name. Bury our past. It won't matter. Because one day, we'll come back. And the screen went black. For the first time in her life, Cyrilla was afraid. And then, a noise, a footstep behind her. Her heart lurched. She whirled around. And there, leaning against the doorframe, looking far too amused for someone who had just been erased from history, was Caden Holt, smirking, arms crossed, and looking like he knew exactly what she had just seen. So, he said casually, you found out. Cyrilla had never felt this level of discomfort before. Her mind, usually sharp, methodical, unshakable, was reeling. She had seen something she wasn't supposed to see. And now, standing in front of her, with that damned smug expression, was the human himself, Caden Holt. He was leaning against the doorframe like he owned the place, arms crossed, smirk firmly in place, watching her with an expression that was entirely too relaxed for someone whose entire species had been classified as a galactic horror story. Cyrilla swallowed, carefully schooling her expression into something less obvious. I don't know what you're talking about. Caden arched an eyebrow. Really? Because it kind of looks like you just stumbled into an intergalactic cover-up about my species. Nope, Cyrilla said quickly, standing up and casually minimizing the screen, as if that would somehow erase what she had just learned. Just, doing some late-night reading. Caden's smirk widened. Oh, yeah? What were you reading? Your recipes. Recipes. Yes, recipes. Ancient culinary texts. Right? He nodded slowly. And did those recipes happen to include a side of classified war crimes? Cyrilla huffed, brushing past him as she tried to regain her composure. You know what? I don't have time for this. I have important things to do. Academically superior things. Caden turned, walking alongside her as she stormed down the dimly lit corridor. You mean important things like hacking into a forbidden archive? I didn't hack anything. He gave her a look. She groaned. Fine. I hacked it a little. A little? Okay, a lot. Caden chuckled, shaking his head. Yeah, well, you really shouldn't have done that. Cyrilla stopped abruptly, rounding on him. Oh, excuse me, but maybe the real issue here is that your entire species was erased from history and no one even thought to mention it. Caden didn't flinch. He just shrugged, as if this were completely normal information. Yeah, that tracks. That tracks? Cyrilla gestured wildly. That's your response? You find out your people were deliberately erased from the galactic record, and your reaction is just, yeah, that tracks? Well, Caden said, I already knew. Cyrilla's brain short-circuited for a second. What? I already knew. Her hands clenched into fists. You? You already knew? Yep. And you didn't think that was, I don't know, mildly concerning? Caden smirked. Oh, it's horrifying. But I figured, why ruin the surprise? Cyrilla let out a frustrated noise, rubbing her temples. You are infuriating. Yep. She turned away, taking a deep breath. Okay, fine. Whatever. You knew. Great. Good for you. But that still doesn't explain why this happened. Caden tilted his head. I mean, you read the files, didn't you? Yes, Cyrilla said, crossing her arms, and I still don't believe half of it. Caden snorted. Yeah, that's fair. She frowned. Wait, so you're admitting it's exaggerated? Oh, no, it's all true. Cyrilla stared. Caden smiled. Cyrilla stared harder. You're messing with me. Caden shrugged. I mean, maybe a little. But the war? The fact that we refused to lose even when it made no sense? Yeah, that's real. Cyrilla shook her head. That's insane. No, that's human. For the first time, Cyrilla wasn't sure if she was annoyed or concerned. She had seen countless war records. She had studied strategy, history, conflict resolution. Every species had limits, lines they would not cross, calculations they would not defy. But humans? They didn't just defy logic, they weaponized it. And now one of them was standing right next to her, entirely unbothered by the fact that his entire species had been deliberately forgotten. Cyrilla exhaled. Okay, fine. You knew. So tell me then, why are you really here? Caden's smirk faded just slightly. He leaned against the wall, eyes thoughtful. Because the universe forgot us. He met her gaze, and for the first time since she met him, Cyrilla saw something else in his expression. Something old. Something dangerous. And, he continued, I think it's time we reminded them. Cyrilla swallowed. For the first time since she'd learned the truth, since she'd laughed at him in class, since she had dismissed him as nothing, she realized she had been dead wrong. Cyrilla had been raised to believe in logic, in the supremacy of intellect, in the unwavering predictability of the universe. She had never considered the possibility that the greatest anomaly in galactic history would come wrapped in a lazy grin, a questionable work ethic, and an over-reliance on sarcasm. Yet here she was, standing in a dimly lit corridor, staring at Caden Holt, the last surviving remnant of a forgotten species, a species so dangerous that the entire galactic community had agreed to erase them. And he was smirking at her. So, she said, arms crossed, you're telling me that humanity was, what? Too stubborn to be conquered? Too chaotic to predict? Too stupid to follow the rules? Caden shrugged. Yeah, that's a pretty accurate summary. She threw her hands in the air. That's ridiculous. And yet, Caden gestured dramatically, here I am. Cyrilla groaned, rubbing her temples. I cannot believe my entire civilization participated in a multi-thousand-year conspiracy because you guys were just too annoying to deal with. Honestly, Caden grinned, that sounds about right. Cyrilla let out a long, frustrated sigh, then glanced at him. All right, so tell me this, genius. If humans were erased, how did you get here? Caden hesitated, just for a second. And that second told her everything. You weren't supposed to be here, she realized, eyes narrowing. This wasn't just some historical accident. You weren't supposed to exist at all. Caden scratched the back of his head. Yeah, well, that's kind of our whole thing, isn't it? She took a step closer, her mind racing. Are there more of you? Caden exhaled, rubbing his face. Define more. Cyrilla's eyes widened. Oh, stars. There are. Caden winced. Look, I'm not saying the galaxy should be worried, but... Cyrilla grabbed his collar. How many? Caden carefully pried her hands off. Not enough to matter. Yet. Cyrilla backed away, her pulse racing. And what happens when they do matter? Caden's smirk returned, but this time there was something else behind it. Something calculated. Something dangerous. Then, he said, the galaxy gets a history lesson. Cyrilla stared at him, realization settling in. This wasn't just about Caden Holt. It was about all of them. The humans weren't just waiting. They were watching, growing, adapting. They had been erased, but that didn't mean they had been defeated. She took a breath, steadying herself. You're planning something, aren't you? Caden shrugged. I mean, that depends. Are you going to report me? Cyrilla hesitated. Logically, yes. Every fiber of her Exharn upbringing screamed that she should. She had evidence, classified records, restricted files, an actual human standing in front of her. She could end this right now. And yet, she thought about the smirk, the way Caden never panicked, never cowered. She thought about the ancient war records, the battles humanity should have lost, but didn't. She thought about the warning buried in the archives, not a message from humanity to the galaxy, but a message from the galaxy to itself. Do not let them remember. She had spent her entire life laughing at him. Now, standing in front of him, she wasn't laughing anymore. And worse, neither was he. She exhaled. I should turn you in. Caden grinned. Probably. Another beat of silence. Then she sighed, rubbing her temples. Stars help me. I'm not going to, am I? Caden patted her shoulder. Welcome to the Resistance, partner. We are not partners. We kind of are. I hate you. You love me. She groaned, stomping away. I swear, if I get arrested for this, I'm going to tell them it was all my fault? Yes, Caden laughed, following after her. As they walked, Cyrilla realized something else, something far, far more troubling than humanity's return. Somewhere along the way, she had stopped seeing Caden Holt as a joke. And that was terrifying. Because if she had figured it out, how long until the rest of the galaxy did too?